Hey everybody, welcome back to the Joy of Trucking. I'm Kevin, solo OTR driver for Werner. Looks like I got a 2019 Peterbilt here, the 579. My last two trucks were Kenworth T680s, also from 2019, so looks like we can do a little comparison. Hit that subscribe button, sit back, and I'll give you a tour of the truck. I was at the Pennsylvania terminal a week ago, had a problem with my truck, so they went ahead and issued me this one. It's a good looking truck. These Peterbilts, that big wide grille. It's got the little visor over the windshield. They put the CB antennas way up top. You'll notice that the mirrors are mounted on the door. On the Kenworth, they're mounted up here, just ahead of the door. And you got this great big access door here, which is really great for loading up. I'll talk about that more in a minute. So let's have a look inside. So when you open the door, the mirror swings out. And you climb on up here. You'll notice the controls on the steering wheel and steering column are the same as the Kenworth. And the powertrain is the same too, because it's a PACCAR. Dash cluster, instrument cluster is a little different arrangement. That's not too bad. They put the Bendix up here where I think it's easier to see when you're driving. It's more in your line of sight, and it clears up some space on the dashboard for other stuff here. The thing I'm liking is the space. I don't know if you noticed, this passenger seat here is in a bit of a semi-reclined position, and because of the cabinet situation on the Kenworth, you couldn't really recline that seat very much unless you moved it way forward. So it's a little easier to recline the seats, and you can see it on the driver's seat here too. There's a big space back here, right? So you got room. You could lean that seat back more if you wanted to. Another thing I noticed is the space between the seats is a little wider, and I think it's because on the Kenworth you have an armrest here on the side of the seat, on the outside of each seat, and they've removed that, and I guess that's given them a couple extra inches to push these seats farther apart. So walking in between them is a little more comfortable. And looking at the back, you got some real tall cabinets here, almost floor to ceiling, with a little cubby up top for when you're on the top bunk. On the other side you got that cubby there too, and there's your microwave space, which I just use for utensils and stuff. And then you've got kind of a workspace down here where the Kenworth had that big swing out table that I just love. Gives you a lot of workspace. Over here you got a bit of a shelf, right? And then you have a pull-out table, which is pretty spacious. It's a big work area. And something I discovered about this is you got a little storage area underneath. If you lift this cover up, you can put some change. I put some paperwork down here, so it's kind of like a fold-up desk arrangement, and it slides out of the way, and it actually gives you a lot of room in between here. Like two people could pass through here. That cooler, of course, is a bit of an obstacle, but I think it's more spacious than the Kenworth in that regard. Notice down here you got the inverter mounted on the front of the bunk storage area. On the Kenworth it was inside there, so you had to lift the bunk or come in through the side door to turn that on, so it's much more convenient there. And you see we got a hell of a ladder here for climbing up into the top bunk, and that's pretty useful. I just want to show you something about this ladder. Ladder folds up. Voila, it's gone. So no longer an obstruction there. And something else, you see how the mattress looks like it's really thick, but actually it's folded in half because you can flip half of the bunk up, and it gives you a lot more headroom when you're down on the lower bunk. So that's pretty awesome. Again, it adds to the feeling of spaciousness. You got a window at both ends. The Kenworth only had like a vent here where you couldn't actually see anything, and this is actually a door. I can show you again on the outside, but this door, if you open it from the outside, you can access under the bunk, but also on top of the bunk. So when I was loading this thing up, I was just throwing everything in here on the bunk instead of having to bring it in through the door, climb over the seat, fall onto the floor, put stuff back here on the bunk. Was just toss it all in that door, cut the time in half. So that was pretty cool. And at the end of the bunk here, you see some storage bins where you can drop stuff in. Good for holding on to things. And look at that TV rack. The one on the Kenworth was about half the length. So I guess that means you can put a much bigger TV in here. Here you got hanging closet there with a bar, which I've just packed with boxes of stuff. The one down below, again, another big storage compartment. Behind the cooler, yet another storage compartment. Even got a little slidey drawer underneath here for storing things. Again, look at all this room behind the seats. Stash stuff. Just feels a little more spacious. Here's an extra cubby right here, loaded up with granola bars. There's your bunk heater and air conditioning controls. A little storage space, cup holders there. You see you got the power ports here on this panel. Two for the 12 volt and a little USB charging thing here. But none over on this end. And on the Kenworth you had a couple down here. So if you do put in a TV, I guess you got a hardwired or something, and you're not gonna put any appliances down here. Tanya used to plug in her APAT machine over here. If we wanted to move the cooler from this side and keep it on this side from now on, the cord would have to go across the bunk somehow and become an obstruction. So I just think that's one thing. They could have put another power port down here, at least one. You see you got good lighting here, and these spotlights here. And what else? Over here, up above the driver's seat, you got a storage compartment. I think the one in the Kenworth was longer though. I used to be able to put my clipboard in here, and the clipboard doesn't quite fit in there now. And you got the little cubbies up here. Another storage thing up here, more ample lighting. Yeah, so sitting down here in the bunk, it feels very spacious, where the Kenworth felt a little more claustrophobic, a little tighter, you know. And I guess with the bunk flipped up, you get more of an open view at the top. One other thing I noticed too is my big 3-gallon water jug fit under the bunk standing up in the Kenworth, but here it does not, which means the bunk is an inch or two lower. So maybe that contributes more to this feeling of spaciousness up top here. I'm not sure, but it does limit the space underneath the bunk for storage a tiny, tiny bit. What else can I say? Oh, as far as driving, it's a nice, comfortable ride, as good or maybe even a little better than the Kenworth. This truck had about 100,000 less miles on it than the two Kenworths that I turned in earlier this month. It does have ample power when you're climbing hills. I've had a couple of loads over 40,000 pounds in the last week and just zipping right up the hills, so I'm impressed with that too. I like going fast. So I guess that's it. That is your review and a bit of a comparison with the Kenworth T680. I like it. Give me the thumbs up. Give me your comments down below. And hit that subscribe button. All right. Bye for now. See you down the road.